That's right. As long as you just don't start swinging and singing with that one, man. So Teddy, at a certain point, we are going to play that kick out the jams. All right, that'll be track 5. I'll tell you when. So just wipe the motherfuckers out the best you can.
That's me singing on that.
That's you singing on what?
Solidarity for Us.
What here?
That's Morello's version?
No.
Oh.
This is the old people in what do you call it? What's that place down halfway down has a labor a town that's not Morello. That is.
That's Morello. Yeah, I know my own voice. I heard my own voice.
Oh, you heard your voice? Yeah. Okay. That's solidarity forever, man. Okay, hang on. We're on the way. Don't hold it against me, Wade.
No, I don't. Not at all. Come on.
Something I heard when I was a kid, man. All right, welcome to the Michael Slate Show. I'm your host, Michael Slate, and I'm not going to take a lot of time doing much of intros, except to tell you we got a hell of a show for you today. At the back end of the show, we're going to be talking with Robert Gardner. Who's Robert Gardner? He's a student at UCLA who was walking around the supermarket and looked at a sign at a poster on the wall outside the supermarket that said, "These are Jew haters," and it had his name down on it. And we're going to be listening to what the hell is going on with that, all right? What's behind that? Before that, we'll be talking with Felice Gelman. Felice is from the U.S. Friends of the Janine Freedom Theater, and we're going to be talking about the public theater's decision back in May to cancel. They were pulling together an effort to stage a play called Siege, The Siege, which is all about a siege in the West Bank, and it was a very moving thing. It was about the tale of the Palestinian people and what's happening to them. And for some unknown reason, they decided, we're not going to run this. And it just reeks of a lot of other things that have happened around. Whenever people want to try and present the truth about the Palestinian people and what's going on, they are constantly facing all kinds of obstacles, including being shut down. So we're going to be talking with Felice Gelman about that. But opening the show up, all right, this is a hell of a thing because I kind of, I've gotten into this routine where every year at this time, I expect to see this man sitting across the table from me, and it always brings great joy to my heart. It's Wayne Kramer, and he's one of the baddest. I gotta watch my mouth on this one, man. He's just one of the baddest musicians around. He's just a great all-around person. Wayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. That's always a pleasure.
Sure, man. And just for people who've been living in a can for a long time, they should know who you are. MC5 plus your own work. That is, I tell you, and I know you're working with a friend of mine now on this film, Dave Zyger, right? You're doing
Yes,
music for that,
yes.
right? Yeah, it's going to be an amazing film.
Yeah,
But
looking forward to it.
yeah, well, I remember sitting in the car with him, and I was just playing in my head all these old albums of yours, these old CDs, and they were just driving me crazy. And the ones that had just in case you've forgotten, okay, because the ones that had things like God's Worst Nightmare. Which is one of my favorite songs. And I just really look forward to that. I spend a lot of time listening to your music because I find it's kind of the thing that gives me a lot of same thing it did to me way back when in the 60s and whatnot, and what it does to me today in terms of just grabbing my heart and just it starts pumping and jumping out there.
Oh, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
It's always good to know somebody's listening.
Well, and the breadth you have too, because I also realize, that when you were on here when you put out your album Lexington, and I love that piece. It's really, but again,
Thank you.
And
Thank you
it's,
so
again,
much.
it's the breadth you have, but it's also the I'm sorry. I just came up in the same time period you came up in,
Yeah.
and that music will forever drive me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there
Me
you
too.
go. There you go.
I tell people that, Lexington is in a lot of ways unorthodox and maybe new to many people's ears, but there's actually no new music on there. It's the same music I've been playing for 50 years.
It's interesting because even in terms of the loud rock, I'll tell you this one experience, and then we'll get into talking about why you're here, because I used to have a convertible, okay? And it was a Saab, and I got a great deal on it. It was this old 92 Saab with a convertible. It looked like a boat, actually. But it had the baddest sound system in it. I would turn that thing up, and it would just rock the entire freeway. The other cars would be shaking when I'd be driving that. But I loved it. You put the top down, you got the music, just, imagine playing every MC5 album at top volume, and you're just bam, and you're driving down. I got a ticket from a cop.
Love it.
He pulled me
Love
over
it.
and he said, "Turn the music down." I said, "Why?"
Right.
And he gave me a ticket for disturbing the peace.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I consider that a great
Yeah,
honor.
Yeah, me too.
Hey,
There you
listen,
go.
all my music is designed to disturb the neighbors
There you go. Exactly.
and the police.
And including right now what you're going to do, and you're here to talk with us about jail guitar doors, and this has been sort of developed into something I look forward to every year, is having you come in and talk about jail guitar doors and what's going to go on. But first, tell people what that is.
Jail Guitar Doors. JGD is a 501c3 nonprofit founded 9 years ago by Billy Bragg, myself, and my wife Margaret Kramer. And what we do is simple. We find people that work in corrections that are willing to use music as a tool for rehabilitation. And we provide them with instruments, mostly guitars, and we run songwriting workshop programs across the country in county jails, and we are in the process right now of launching JGD songwriting workshops in 4 California state prisons surrounding Los Angeles, at Lancaster, Norco, Chino, and the California Institute for Women. We also have recently made inroads into the California Youth Authority, and we have a songwriting workshop up and rolling right now at Camp Gonzalez. They call them camps. They're prisons for boys.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, my neighborhood, we had a lot of people went to camp for more than the summer.
Camp, yeah. So at this point, our instruments are in over 95 American prisons across the country. And we've got a waiting list of 50 more. And, things continue to move forward. There's a shift in the air. I'm a little skeptical about it, but there is a shift in the air. The president is using his executive authority to try to commute some of these horrific sentences that people have endured. There are, on the state level, there's a lot of, especially here in California, there's a lot of movement towards prison reform and justice reform. But I'm a little suspicious of a lot of it, because a lot of it is organized by the Koch brothers. And what they do is, it's a strategy that's aimed at the nonviolent, non-serious, non-sex offenders. And they want to reduce sentences, they want to repurpose justice dollars, they want to work on reentry programs and rehabilitation programs for the nons. But what happens is, every time the nons get a break, the other prisoners, who they consider the real bad people, violent offenders, they get jammed up worse. And you cannot paint all violent offenders with one brush. They're not instantly terrible people, and that should be separated from the rest of us. A small percentage of them, absolutely, but in general, I'd put the percentage around 80%. The bottom line with the Koch brothers' efforts, and they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on this, is they want to reduce penalties for white-collar crime, which is them. They are the worst polluters in American history. They've narrowly avoided going to prison themselves over the years, and all their efforts are designed to protect white-collar crime. So this is a slippery business here. Anything that helps prisoners, I'm for. But this is a little tricky, and the worst aspect of the whole thing, I'll wrap this up, is that this entire apparatus of American punishment, no matter what reforms we engineer and we accomplish, ultimately what they're going to do is take this apparatus and shift it over to immigrants who have no rights. You and I have rights. We go to prison, we have the right to health care, we have habeas corpus, we have the right to First Amendment rights to talk to the press, to talk to our peeps. Immigrants have no rights, and that's business as usual for American punishment.
You know, it's very heavy because you think about this, it's also, you look at this thing about in terms of what's going on today too though. The fact that we can look at all the police murders that have come down and that very few have been prosecuted. You know, very, very few. I mean, you can count them probably on one hand. You know, and when there's a scare comes into the ruling class and they decide, okay, well, we have to sacrifice somebody. But it's hardly anything at all right now. And in fact, people are being exonerated, you know, left and right. You know, all these cops are being exonerated. And then you have the people still going to jail. You know, while they're letting, yeah, there's some things in California where they're letting some prisoners out. But generally, overall, this doesn't seem to me to be a big, you know, this is like, God, what were we doing all these years? We've been putting millions of people behind bars. What the hell's the matter with us? We better give them jobs and get them out there. It's like the mass incarceration is still a major plague on communities, especially of black and brown people. You know, and this is something, and it's like you're saying, you know, when you said, there's something you said in the material you put out around jail guitar doors, you said the crime, you went to jail yourself.
Yep.
And you did, what, a couple years, 4
Yeah.
years, something like that? Yeah.
I got a 4-year sentence. I did almost 3 years on
Right,
it.
and it was for selling coke.
Yep.
And you made a comment which really kind of set me back. You said, you know, if that was today, what I did then would get somebody life in prison.
Yeah, and
Which
there are
is-
people serving life terms for my same offense.
Right, exactly. So you think about that in terms of, you know, look, mass incarceration is a fundamental part of this system in terms of, because it's the way they exercise social control in a lot of ways. And they keep telling us people have choices, but you know as well as I do, man. When, you know, people have different choices based on who they are, where they come from, the color of their skin, all of these things. There's, you know, if you don't really have, choices are not something that's just sort of out in the air and you look up and say, you know, I don't like the idea of being like a great world-class scientist because it's just a little too much work. Where over here I could just stick up this store and, you know, hey.
Yeah. We have choices in the kind of ice cream we want to buy.
Right, there you go.
You know, we don't have choices on anything that matters.
There you go. Now, I wanted to, you know, well, here's one of the things I wanted to actually get into with you, but I want to actually let people hear this song first, all right?
Sure.
So, Teddy, let's do track 5 and do your magic on making it possible to do that, all right? Because this is, you know, Wayne has been saying for quite some time now, he's been saying, and particularly this time around, he's been saying this thing about how do you deal with all this? Rock out. And I want people to hear this because this is the stuff that drove a lot of my younger life and still does today, all right? So check this out. Yes. Turn this up. See, this is it, Wayne. See?
Yeah, it cranks when the horn section kicks in.
There you go. As hard as it is to stop that, we've got to. Wayne, I'm telling you, man, and that is a particular version of the song that I just was looking around this morning and I was looking for music I was playing and I thought, and I just stumbled onto this, just purely by accident, all right? And it's Pick Out the Jams, which is a classic MC5 song, classic You. And it's also got Bonorama in it.
Yeah, that was recorded live in New Orleans.
Damn, man.
Yeah, it was a great night.
Yeah,
Big fun.
I can imagine.
They're a great band. I mean, having 4 trombones playing that riff, you know, it was exciting.
Yeah.
You can hear it. I was having fun.
Yeah. No kidding. Listening to it is just like, you know, in fact, this is going to be way up. And I have a story that is equally powerful to the one I had in the Saab. So now I can actually, no convertible, but I'll just throw all the windows open. Okay.
Good.
But this, you know, we talk about, you know, what you thought about all this, but your point about what brought you to Jail Guitar Doors. That's very important for people to understand.
Yeah, well, I was released, I went to prison in the 70s and was released at the end of the 70s. And, prison changes you, and I don't believe it changes anybody for the better. But one thing it did to me was make me acutely conscious of life in prison, as it was for me, and then as it was for everybody else. And so I would track stories, reports in the news, and I started to notice that, well, beginning with my time in the Federal Correctional Institution at Lexington, when I got there, the count was around 600 people. When I left, it was 1,200. So, when I got there, we had day rooms, and there'd be a piano and a TV, and we could, have group in there, and guys could go in there if they weren't working. When I left, day rooms were done. They were all filled up with cubicles. It was looking like a state joint. And then I noticed over the years, as more and more people just like me went to prison for longer sentences under worse conditions, first tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions, and today it's 2.3 million of our fellows under lock and key, and another 10 million under direct state control, parole, probation, ex-offenders. And as time went on, I've been an activist all my life, and I started saying, wait a minute now, this isn't right, this is morally rubbing me wrong, and when is somebody going to say something about this or do something about this? And nobody did, and it kept getting worse, and worse laws would pass, and prison building became the second biggest industry in California. I mean, we built, since 1980, we built 22 prisons and 1 college in California. And finally, this builds a kind of nihilism up in me, a kind of meaninglessness when I see, unfairness and injustice happening on such a scale. And how do I militantly oppose that nihilism? And I've concluded the only thing I can do is take ethical action. And by ethical, I mean thoughts and actions that move in the direction of human happiness and move away from the direction of human suffering. What can I do? I'm a musician, I'm an ex-convict. Well, maybe I could play concerts in a prison. When I was in prison, people came in and played, I played. It made a big difference for me. I organized a concert at Sing Sing, an infamous New York City maximum security facility, and took a load of my friends in with me, Tom Morello, Perry Farrell and his wife Eddie, Gilby Clark, Handsome Dick Manitoba, Don Was, Jerry Cantrell.
Did you also take Boots Riley in a couple times?
Boots was on that trip, yeah. And I took Billy Bragg with me. And we were standing around backstage talking, and he gets his guitar out, and his guitar says Jail Guitar Doors on it. And I said, what's up with that, Bill? And, so the story, when I went to prison, this new music emerged, punk rock. And The Clash, this great British punk rock band, wrote a song about me going to prison. Me and a couple other guys. And at the time, I thought it was a great show of solidarity. Brothers from across the sea. I didn't know them, but were musicians. They highlighted my bad behavior in the song. I thought it was really terrific, and I didn't think anything else of it, So here we are, fast forward 30 years. We're backstage at Sing Sing, and Billy has Jail Guitar Doors on his guitar. I said, what's up with that? He said, oh, it's an old Clash B-side. Have you ever heard it?
Who you calling a B-side, man?
I said, heard it, Bill. The song is about me. He said, what you mean? I said, what are the lyrics? Right. Let me tell you about wine and his deals of coke. Oh, bloody hell! It is about you. I forgot. Oh, he was so embarrassed, and I love this man so much. I just adore him. So he started to explain to me that he wanted to do something to celebrate Joe Strummer's life's work. And a guy had written him from a British prison saying he was trying to use music to rehabilitate some drug addicts, but they had no guitars. Could Billy find them some guitars? Billy said, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for to commemorate Joe's life's work. I'll name it after that Clash song, Jail Guitar Doors. I'll go get my rock star friends to give me some money, and I'll buy guitars, and we'll put them in the prisons. I said, well, you know, I thought about it all day while we were playing, and the gig was a huge success, and it was really terrific. On the bus ride back, I said, Bill, what you're doing is great. You're British, and you're doing it in Her Majesty's prisons. But, you know, I'm an American ex-convict. I'm an American musician. I'm an activist. I'd like to take this on in this country. And he said, well, good. I'm glad you decided that, because I was just about to task you with it. You're the only one that can do it because you've been inside, you know how the system works. So that was...
Well, you and Johnny Cash, okay.
Johnny actually didn't do any extended prison time.
But,
I mean, he spent the night in jail.
Right.
But in any event, that was the launch of JGD.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting because the first time that we did anything here about JGD was you had Billy Bragg come in with you, and it was great talking with the two of you. And I want people to know, you know, I've been to the last two. Were they the first two?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. And amazing concert every time, including people that, you know, just people that you don't expect to see, and the kind of surprises that come up, but also just the music that comes out. And you've brought both people that are very well known, but also people who aren't that well known,
Mm-hmm.
but who still are just like amazing in terms of what they're putting out.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about who's going to be there.
This year we have a great emerging band, the Wild Reeds, or kind of NPR darlings. They did the Tiny Desk concerts and were received very well. Thrilled to have them. My dear sister Jill Sobiel will be on stage. Jason Heath and the Greedy Souls. And Jason is a JGD facilitator. He runs the program at Camp Gonzalez and is the lead facilitator in the Men's Central Jail, where we run our songwriting workshop. He's also going to take over some of the state prison workshops.
And his band is very, very
Oh, they're
very,
terrific.
Very
They're a terrific band. We have Gilby Clark is going to bring his band in and do a few songs. And my dear brother Marshall Crenshaw is coming in from the East Coast, and you know, he's one of my heroes. You know, every time I play with him, I get a guitar lesson because he's such a wicked guitar player. You know, people, they think of Marshall as a great singer and songwriter, but he's a wicked guitar player. He can really play.
Yeah.
I'll play with the Lexington Arts Ensemble. We have Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks, and Black Flag, and Off. He's going to do some songs, and we have a couple JGD returned citizens. Frank Foster, who's performed on the show before, and this year we're going to feature Christopher Bisbano, who is a great guitarist that I met in one of the state prisons a few years ago, who used our guitars and did a terrific job inside, and is now free, and he has agreed to come and play, and we're very excited about having him. Cody Marks, a JGD volunteer, is going to sing a couple songs, and we have Eleni Mandel, a great singer-songwriter, who is also a JGD facilitator.
Wow. Huh.
So it's going to be a power-packed night. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anyone. I hope I'm not. Well, I think that's it.
Is that all, really? That's it? Come on, give a break, man. Anyway, listen, and let me make sure I get this out so people know. The tickets, the event is, I don't have the date here. What's the date?
It's next Friday, September 9th.
There you go.
At the beautiful Ford Amphitheater. They're doing an unbelievable job of, it's going to be the greatest room in the world when they're done with it. It's always been the most beautiful venue in Los Angeles. You know, there isn't a bad seat in the house. Sound is fabulous. sight lines are fabulous, the setting is fabulous.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I was at a concert, an Aloe Black concert a couple weeks
I
ago.
heard about it.
Yeah, it was really,
I heard it
really
was great.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Really, really tremendous. And this is gonna be equally, I mean, this is gonna just, I can't say blow the roof off the place, because there ain't no roof. That's what are we gonna do? But it is gonna be an amazing.
we had a roof,
concert.
we'd
Right,
blow it off.
right, there you go. And tickets are available at www.fordtheaters.org or by calling 323-461-3673. And there's also discounts you can get for groups of 8 or more by calling 323-461-3673. Same thing. So folks, this is an amazing concert. You do not want to miss this. It's always a pleasure to be there. It just sets you on a whole different plane when you leave that night, man. And I'm going to be there. So it's gonna, I'll bring a whole crew of people.
I know who I forgot. Don Was.
Ah, yeah. You know, the first time you were on my show, wasn't he on here with you?
It could have been, yeah.
Yeah. Because the two of you did a song.
Yeah.
Yeah, about what's his name, the football player that was in
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
Yeah. What's his name? Tillis?
I can't remember, but it was it was a very moving song, and it was a great time with the two of you, and it was very deep.
Killed by friendly fire.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. And his parents were actually standing up and refusing to go along
Right,
with the
right.
program, right?
Right.
So anyway, so that's another thing in terms of where the trail you've gone down, man, which is like a very, very important one. So Wayne, I think people should really be there, and I know that you said, and I'd have to tell people the story because we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just gonna put it, and you can, if you have anything you wanna add, you can just throw it in real quick. But that point about rocking out, I have to tell people a story that I saw on what your publicist actually sent out in some of the news info around this, where you had helped Tom Morello and Prophets of Rage organize a concert at Norco State Prison.
Mhm.
And then when they got there, it was sort of canceled.
Yeah.
And so instead of turning around going, oh, damn, man, people going home, went over into a lot that was facing the wall, turned up the volume as loud as you
We
could.
set up on the street, there's a public street, and we set up, and you know, we managed to do it. My wife was genius at keeping, you know, the prison guards content, the local sheriff, the city manager, the local police, and us and the band, everybody calm, and we did the concert where we aimed the gear right through the fence, where all the men in those housing units right there were rocking. Because Tom said, you know, we promised to come here and play a concert, and we want to live up to our, even if the Department of Corrections won't allow it, you know, they can't stop us. And so we set up and the band rocked it. It was terrific.
And I bring that up because as you started this thing out with, what's the cure for all this? What do you got to do in the face of all this insanity and all this terrible oppression that's going on?
Take action,
And
ethical action,
and rock out.
and rock out.
There you go.
And I added on this, in terms of this concert and, you know, our particular audience is to rock out and stay out.
There you go. Very good, very good. All right, and that concert's September 9th, next Friday, and it's at the Ford Theater. Don't miss it, folks.
Come on out,
Yeah,
come out, it's gonna be
definitely come
fun.
out. All right, Wayne, thanks again, man.
Thanks for having me, Michael, it's always a pleasure.
All right, and we're gonna take a quick break and be right back, and I will be talking to you about some fundraising we have to do right now, so stay tuned.
Terrific.